Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast with host Kat Ward. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast. This segment is pre-recorded and streaming on United Public Radio Network 107.7 New Orleans, uprntalkradio.com. I'm your host, Kat Ward. Thanks so much for tuning in. Happy New Year. I really can't believe 2025 is tomorrow. Where did the year go? I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, holiday season, whatever you celebrate. I hope it was a good one for you. And please have a fun and safe New Year's Eve tonight. I don't want to preach, but please do not drink and drive. So, folks, my special guest tonight is paranormal experiencer and author of the Vampyre Tales series, Mr. Wayne Mallows. Sorry, I almost called you Marrows. Wayne will be discussing some paranormal experiences he's had, as well as his book series. And I have to tell you, I'm currently reading his first book, Whitechapel Road, A Vampyre Tale, and it's an amazing book. You really have to pick up a copy. So without further ado, let's welcome Wayne. Hello, Wayne.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I hope it was a good one for you.
It was different. We survived.
Well, that's good.
That's a good thing, right?
Yes, it is.
My goodness.
So before we get into things, I have to say how much I'm really enjoying this book. We've been sending emails to each other. I'm telling you what part of the book that I'm at. And I absolutely love that when I'm able to message the author of the book that I'm reading to say, oh, no, I can't believe you did this. Or, it's really amazing. And I really appreciate how much, because I know you did a lot of research for this book. Yeah. And all the details I really appreciate it as a reader, because it just makes the reader be into that story even easier, so you can picture things. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I get a little OCD about that sort of stuff when I'm researching. It's like, and it's not my fault. Like I'll research something. I'm looking for one specific thing and I'll research that. But then it's kind of like, oh, what's that? Where's that go? What's that about? Oh, I didn't know that. What's that? And then next thing you know, I'm like a squirrel down a rabbit hole kind of thing. Yep. And I start off with like, I'm going to take 10 minutes to do this. Next thing, it was 3 a.m. and I'm just like, I can't believe this. Wow, I didn't know this. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, because I remember in one of the emails that you had mentioned, you even looked at what maps were for cities and during that era. So again, that really helps the reader to be able to envision what you're writing.
Yeah, it was important to me because I needed I needed the maps of the area, but I also needed like a topographical map, because when you look at a map, it'll show you the roads, but it won't tell you if they're up or if they're down.
Yes.
Right. They don't tell you the pitch of the road. Right. So it's like, you're walking down a lane. Like I can say, well, he walked down a lane, but it's better when you say like he walked up the lane, because it was going up the lane, because then you could be winded.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And like I had to work out the police beat, for instance, in Whitechapel Road. They had beat cops and they walked the beat. So I got the police beat of that time period for this particular area for Mitre Square. And it was basically a figure 8. Mm-hmm. But then I had to work out, okay, how big is this figure 8? How big is the cop? What's his stride? And then I would go outside, I'd measure my stride, which I knew what it was. And I'd just say, okay, how long does it take to actually walk a figure 8 this many, meters, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so my guy's got like 10 minutes at best to do what's got to happen before this guy comes around again. Right. So everything has to work, because it's got to be realistic.
Now, as an author, do you find it easier to write when you go that much in depth with the research?
Yeah. What I always say, it's like, I don't meditate. I never meditated, but what I did with the books, all the books, is I would play them over and over again. So I would research it. So I would know, okay, the laneway is here, or the house is here, or whatever's going on. I know how far it is. Then I put the weather in. Is it raining? Is it not raining? Whatever. And then from there, I play it over and over in my head. Like I did a lot of driving back in the day. So I would drive for miles, and I would play this whole thing out in my head, walk down the lane, go up the stairs. The rain is from this way, blah, 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 and so forth and so on. Then I would introduce dialogue if there was any. And then when you play the dialogue over and over in your head, and then you start saying the words, I know it sounds crazy. I'm in the truck, I'm driving, I'm talking to myself, right? But you really do pick off the nuances. And she would never say that. That's so contrived. That's so robotic. She'd never say that, right? So then it becomes very real. So when I actually sit down and start typing, I'm typing it from a memory as if it actually happened, right? So it's like 4 months of this one chapter going over in my head, and I write it, and it's just like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember that it was raining, blah, 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 blah. And it does flow really easily at that point because you're just recalling a memory.
That's nice. I've never written a book. I've toyed with the idea, but
horrible.
Horrible. I've been toying with the idea for many years now, and I don't know. Who knows? I might someday. But I really appreciate anyone who can put down in words an entire world for people to be able to just delve into. It's so, yeah, I really admire authors.
No, it's funny because when I wrote when I laid out the first book, it was only supposed to be a single book, and I kind of wrote it from an idea that I had because I had created this character for a theme park, and the characters that we created, like I used to build theatrical haunted houses, right? So I got consulted on all these different builds, right? And I was asked to participate in one and create these atmospheric characters that would walk the park and actually interact with people. And that's tricky because you're not dealing with an uneducated group of people. They're pretty quick, so if you come up with this really long name and this really fantastic place you came from, and the first person comes up to you, well, how do you spell your name? And you can't, right? You're kind of beat, right? So I created this character with a whole backstory and everything. When I finished that gig, I thought, God, it's such a dynamic character. I think I'm just going to jot it down. Actually, I'm going to write it out and see, so I don't ever forget it. Right. And as I started to write it out, I'm like, this is a total story. Like other characters are coming in and everything's like filling my head. I'm like, okay, stop. We got to really look at this. And it was funny for me because I had the secondary character, like the villain. And I created her with a hair color, a body image, body style, everything. And the first chapter was like, boom, away. I was like, wow, this is gold. And then the second chapter, which was mostly her, I was writing, I didn't have writer's block, but nothing worked. It just wouldn't work. And I remember sitting back in my office, and I'm just like, what's going on? Why is this not happening? What's going on? Because I wrote technical manuals. That's what I did. So this is new for me.
Wow.
I sat back and I was just like, what's wrong? Why won't you work? Speak to me. And actually, this first time I actually heard something in my head. I'm not crazy, but I heard something in my head. And she basically said, she goes, because I'm not like that. Stop making me so simple.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, fair enough. Delete the whole thing. I'm like, okay, I got to sit down and create this whole other thing. And I drew her out. I drew up an image of her. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it like this. And boom, we were away. And that was that. And she became a very dynamic character through most of the books. She was only supposed to be in for just a few pages, but
I'm enjoying that character as well.
Yeah, she's very diverse. Like when you get further along, like she's just she's very diverse. She's just innocent as the driven snow 1 minute, and just like, don't turn your back on her. She'll kill you. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And as you know, because I had hand surgery for a bit, it killed me. I was off work for almost 3 weeks, and I had every intention to just delve into that book. But it's such a large book. The first time I picked it up, I'm like, nope, my hand.
Nope.
I can't do it. I was so upset. It's just kept looking at the book next to me, looking at the book and looking at my hand. It's like, no,
can't do it.
Finally picked it up again recently, and people can't leave me alone so I can read it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I get a lot of that from people. It's just it's a page turner. They get to the end of the chapter and they're just like, oh, I'm just going to sneak one, make sure this person's still good. Okay. What's happening next? And I love that. That's great. That's a real compliment.
Exactly. Yes. I'd be finishing a chapter and then it's like, well, let's just see what's going to happen now. And next thing I know, that chapter's done. And I have to actually stop myself and say, okay, no, I got to put this down now because I have to get some things done. But no, I'm really enjoying. And how many books are in the series?
There's 4 now. I'm working on the 5th one, but I'll be honest, like life has beaten me. It's just beating me hard. And I haven't written in 6 years. I retired early so I could write.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat down, I wrote somewhere around 13,000 words of a companion book for book number 3. And it's simply called Bethany. And it's designed to fill in the blanks. I don't like leaving a lot of blanks in a
Mm-hmm.
story. I like each story to stand on its own, but they are linked together.
Okay.
But this one here, at the end, there is just some like, well, what happened to her and what happened to him and where did they go and what, there was just a little bit of that. Like it closed, but it left room, for like, well, yeah, I did wonder what happened. So I had a lot of people say like, well, did so-and-so ever figure this out? And I'm like, well, yeah, she did, but I'm getting there. So I decided to make a small companion book just to sort of answer those questions that happened after World War II sort of deal. So yeah,
Okay.
so that's kind of where I'm at now, but like, good luck. I got a new computer. I never even put a document on it for to compose a story. It's just not even there. I hardly open it. It's just
Oh,
one thing
wow.
after another. Oh, it's brutal. Just brutal. Life is harsh.
Well, I know you guys have had a busy year too, so
it's just one thing after another, after another, after another. As soon as I think I've got a minute, it's just like, no. You need to fix the furnace. No, the roof is off. And no, the truck needs a motor. No. So just no, just give up on that for a while.
So where did you get your idea for the book series?
Like I said, it came from a character I developed for a theme park. I always liked vampires, always did as a kid. I always thought they were really cool. I grew up, like an only child. My sisters were a million years older than me. They were moved out and married by the time I was 4. So that was the end of that. So, I didn't have a lot of friends and stuff. And all the cool kids had the cool heroes. They had the Superman and the Batman and all that kind. No. I can't be associated with the cool kids because they hate me. So I got to find someone that I can identify with. And I kind of identified with the vampire because, one of the Anne Rice's things that said, and like, I found the vampire, or should I say the vampire found me? I think that's exactly what happened. I kind of identified with this really dark kind of personality that's misunderstood, and doesn't want to be where he is, but hey, it's where he is. And he's not invincible. I think for me, when I started to write, I wanted to make the series very real, very much removed from the Hollywood kind of vampire where there's two little pinpricks in your neck. It's all sexy and pretty. I didn't want that. I wanted them to be hunters. I wanted them to be predatorial. I also wanted I in the first book, I used the word vampire one time. That's it. And because the main character does not know what's happened, doesn't know who he is, what he is. He's a little country bumpkin from the south of England, right? He doesn't know. He raises horses, right? And tends the fields. Never seen anything like this. This is like, so what am I? I don't know. He always says, I don't know what I am. And even the person he meets who's much older than him says, it's a common question. I don't know what we are. We just are. And that's that. So that's where it came from. And that's the sort of blueprint I followed to go through. I just wanted to be extremely extremely different from what was out there. I didn't want this person to be, this amazing, handsome guy that lives forever, that has, millions of dollars that he can spend however he wants to spend and just live a lap of luxury. I want it to be confusing. I want it to be upsetting. I want it to be exactly what it is. You're a murderer killing thing that you don't like yourself. So much like myself, I don't like myself. That's how I grew up. So that kind of went into all of that, is that whole, being alone and being on your own and being afraid, and yet nothing can really touch you. One of the characters says that, in one of the books, and she basically says like, I've seen no evidence of a God. I've seen no evidence of anything. All I know is I can walk through any forest, any laneway, and fear absolutely nothing. Can anybody else that you've met say that?
Yeah, exactly.
Truth, there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, I appreciate also that you've gone a different route as opposed to the Hollywood versions of vampires. And you've mentioned a couple of times in the book the Nosferatu.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to see, without giving too much of the book, but the struggles that he's going through with his new self, trying to figure things out. And it, like you said, it's not like the extremely rich count or something like that. It's almost like the average Joe who's all of a sudden thrown into this world and he's trying to figure things out. So
like totally on his own too. I mean, like that,
Yeah.
we take a lot for granted today. Like, you pop on the internet and figure out what you want. Even back in the day, you go to a library and get something.
Yep.
And this poor guy's like, okay, I'm going to go to the doctor. And no, you're fine. I'm going to go to the priest. No, it's delusional. Stop it.
Yeah.
It's
Things don't exist. Yeah.
yeah, these things, he goes, he starts going through all the systematic things to try to figure out what he is and comes up with nada. So then it's down to like, pen and paper and, okay, this happens on this day. This doesn't happen on this day. This happens on this day. Oh my God, this is happening on this day. So this is where he's at with that. So it's a real struggle for this guy until he kind of finds his way and can figure out how to live sort of undetected and pretty much normal looking to everybody else.
Yep. And then his fear of being found out as well from authorities or just anyone in general.
Yeah, exactly. It's just always on the move. Always on the move, always doing stuff, always having to come up with a new angle, and in the end, it actually backfires on him when he's just he's so good at being invisible that a problem arises and this person says, well, who are they going to believe? Me, who everybody knows, right? Or you that nobody knows.
Yeah.
And now he's really stuck, right? He's like, oh my God, now what do I do? And nobody knows me.
Yeah.
So.
And I think you've touched on struggles that a lot of people actually live in their actual lives. Obviously not being vampires, but just how people struggle with trying to figure out their own lives in general. So it's even though he's not technically human anymore, the humanity that you show in him while he's struggling it's just amazing.
Yeah. And his counterpart is the same, but she's removed that part. Like, I don't care about that part, like, why do you love these people so much? Like, why do you care? These people will kill you if they get a chance. Like, why do you even care? So that's that. I mean, there's this conflict that's there. But that's life. Life is a conflict.
Yep. So
I wanted people to realize that as they're reading it.
And it's been said in a lot of vampire stories and a lot of vampire movies. And I find it's kind of the same with your book, where it's like, where you just said, why do you care for these people? They're food to us. I've heard that in a lot of other books and movies, but yeah.
Well, with him, it's selective. Like, he's got to learn how to just survive in this area. And he learns really well how quick it is, how easy it is. And he just, okay, this is how it's got to be. I can do this and just be really selective on what I do. I think one of the things that the way I started this whole idea was I wanted it to be believable. So for me, I watched, a number of vampire flicks and way back when, and I'd be like, oh, so like, it's just too much. Like, when you have, for argument's sake, a fictional character, you can do anything with it. They can fly, they can disappear, magic, fire from the fingers, whatever you want to do, you can do it. The problem with that is that it becomes unbelievable, right? Like, I want this guy to just, you say hi to him every morning as you go out to get the paper, right? He's just a normal, you'd never believe it kind of guy, right? So what I did was I wanted to put him into a scenario that the common person would relate to, So I looked at things like the world wars, because everyone knows something, a little bit about the world wars. Everyone knows something about the Titanic. Like, they might not know everything, but it's a big boat that sank. A lot of people died. Yeah, boom, that's enough, right? And so if you can tie a fictional character into a real event, for the reader, it becomes real because they already have some inkling of that event, right? So as I'm going along, I come upon Jack the Ripper, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know a little bit about Jack the Ripper. Let's delve into this, right? And I start diving into it, and it was just like, I didn't know a lot about it at the time, and like, I'm going to say right out now, because I'm going to get called out on this all the time, is I am not a Ripperologist. I am not. I don't spend 37 years of my life on the Ripper cases. I never did. I probably spent between 9 and 11 months on it, and it was pretty intense. But as I started to delve into it, I was like, this is like bread and butter for me. Like, this is exactly. And the part that got me was on the murder that happened on Buck Row for Penny Nichols, who was like the original killer, or the original murder by Jack the Ripper. There was actually 2 others prior to that, and one woman survived for quite a bit of time before she passed.
I didn't know that.
No, yeah, there was 2 more after the original 5 as well, but the police are like, nope, that never happened. So it's just that disappeared. But for her, it was that was the one that clinched me. Okay, this is going to be the story. This is what we're going to run with, because the chief inspector at the time, when he arrived on the scene of Polly Nichols, one of the questions he asked the on-duty officer was, okay, did any of your guys move this body? And the answer was no. That's where you see her is where we found her, and we never moved her. Because back then, murder investigations were so different than you'd ever expect to be right now.
Yeah.
It never would happen, because, they'd move it's dark in the laneway, drag her out into the light,
Yes.
Like, just roll her over. Let's have a look, They would never do that now.
They just contaminated the crime scene.
Totally. Perfect. Yeah. We love that. Anyway, so he said, no, that's exactly where we found it. This is the officer that found her, the constable that found her. So he interviewed him. No, that's exactly where we found her. So he comes back to the original inspector, and he says, okay, then, so this is where you found her. So I'm going to put it to you this way, sir. Where did all the blood go? Because she was cut up and down like that.
Yeah.
And he says, because all I find on the sand is enough blood to fill a wine glass to approximately half full. Like, in a cut like that, it would go right up the fence.
Oh yeah, especially at that location too.
Oh yeah, for sure. So he's like, I'm thinking she was killed somewhere else and dumped here.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's like when he said, where did the blood go? Oh, I know where it went. I know exactly where it went. So that was my backdrop. So then I started researching hardcore on all the murders, where they happened, the weather, like what the cops were doing, like just every single thing that was going on, to then have my character kind of walk the walk through all that.
Nice.
That's where it came from.
Yeah, I'm at the part of the book where he's at the market. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away for the listeners in case they decide to buy the book, and I highly suggest you buy it. I don't like to promote things that I don't believe in, but I definitely love this book. So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun to write it. I mean, it became family to me. It was really like, it was so magical for me, because like I said, I wrote a lot of stuff, a lot of things I wrote, but nothing like this. And there were times where I'd be writing, and I'd go back and edit it. I'd go back and read it, and I'd be like, this is way beyond my ability. This is not me. Like, I had to have help from somewhere. Like, I don't write like this. This is amazing. Yeah. And I'm not tooting my own horn. Sorry, folks. I'm not. It's just like, I was like literally blown away. I'm reading this stuff. I don't know. Yeah. This is me. Wow, incredible. So yeah, it's just some of the dialogue was just wicked in it. I just loved it, And some of the stupid little things that would happen that I would never think of, just some of the interactions, and like, I won't, not to give anything away, but there's something that happens. I think it's in book 3, Unnatural Selection. And there's 2 characters that become they're adversarial, but they're close, a couple of women. And they end up in a pub, like in a public house, right? So a little eatery, you could get food and you get a drink. And so it's a seedy place. All right. It's not like it's not like going into like Michelangelo's or something like that. This is just a dump, right? So they go in, and the one unsavory chick's she's like, 2 gin, just like that. And the waitress is like, yeah. And what about you? And the other girl's just like, do you have tea? And she's like, oh, we have tea just for the likes of you. But the funny thing was, when the tea comes, everything's set up, and the one chick's like, and it's gone. And my other character is like, dipping the spoon in and dipping the spoon in. And she's like, what are you doing? She's like, I want to make sure there isn't a spider at the bottom of the cup. Oh. And she goes, well, if there was a spider at the bottom of it'd be dead. It's boiling water. She goes, yeah, but I don't fancy drinking it and looking at the bottom of the cup and seeing a dead spider coming up to my lip.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people have wrote me and said, do you know now every single time I pour a coffee, I look in the cup to make sure there isn't a bug in it because of that book?
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know where that came from. It's just something that popped into my head.
Wow. I
Yeah.
wonder if you've heard of that instance sometime in your life and it was just deep in your memories. And
I don't know. I know I drink tea all the time. I've never done it.
oh,
I've
wow.
never looked at my cup, never looked to see if there was a bug in my
Do
cup.
you now?
Yeah, this person is the one that drinks the tea is quite proper. She's a very, very proper individual, and she's on her own quest as well. In book number 3, she encounters, it's in World War I, and she encounters my main character from book 1, and she's just kind of like, wow, like what's this guy all about? Like, this is crazy, and he meets her, and he's like, what's your fascination? Like, why are you here? You don't need to be here. This is a horror show out here. Why are you here? And it's so they both have their reasons for being there, and they form this really kind of like, I won't say uneasy, but it's a friendship that's got reasons for being there. Like, she's curious and he's curious. So they form this sort of like really loose kind of like friendship that's very guarded on both sides. It's pretty cool. Just like any kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Pretty yeah, pretty much, which is exactly what I wanted. Again, I don't want like, oh my God, you're a vampire. Wow. I don't want that, right? Like, I want like, who are you? What's your whole thing? I don't dig you, like, I like you, but no, just stay right there. That kind of stuff. So it becomes very much a very real sort of get together, trying to figure each other out, just like any man or woman would, or, today, woman or woman, man or man. There's like a connection, but you're not going to just, throw all your chips in one basket because it's a concern.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
just a little.
yeah. Oh yeah. So that's a really fun book because, man, it goes down the rabbit hole deep, like really deep. And just the moral conviction that each one of us face as we go through our daily lives, and how just one thing can go boop, just a little bit off. And your whole life is like, oh, you're off the rails. And that's exactly what happened in that. So that's just jumping ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. Do you recall how long it took you to write each book?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Oh my God. The first one was a horror show. Cause again, I never wrote a sort of a fiction book. It was always like, this is how you change a tire, and it's blah 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 blah. That's what I did, right? So for me, it was a real big learning curve. And that poor book, oh my God, it got edited. I think it was edited 6 times. And not by me. I mean, I paid people to do this, and I would get it back, and I'd flip the book open, and my eyes would zoom right onto a word that was spelt wrong. I'd be like, it's just so, and the original book was only like that big. It was
wow.
Yeah, it really was a small little book, because it was just a book about a guy with a backstory. That was it. But then it became a series. So a couple of years ago, I went back and revisited book 1, and I'm like, okay, let's just sit down and do this properly. And I just took it all apart, and I rebuilt it. And that's now it's this big. So, because now I got a lot more history in it, a lot more things that I didn't know. I actually spoke to a guy in the UK. Unfortunately, I think he's dead now. But he was a ripperologist. He used to work for the Metropolitan Police Department.
Oh, wow.
And I was asking a question on a forum, and I was just getting the runaround. People are, oh, you're not much of a detective if you can't figure this out. Look, I'm not a detective. I'm a guy who's writing a story. Like, just can you help me out here? Yeah. Did this happen or did it not? And this guy jumps on there and he goes, here's my email. Just email me. So I did. I emailed him. He says, so what's the dig? So I'm writing a fiction story, like it's historical fiction. Vampires with Jack the Ripper. Like, I just want the story to be as accurate as possible. He's like, oh, that's really cool. And he gives me the whole history of himself. And he goes, this is the guy you want. This was the neighbor. This was the time. This is why they couldn't do this. This is why they couldn't do that. And I was like, oh my God, shit. Oh, not worthy. He was just like, yeah, just email me anytime. He's like, he goes, I don't have all the answers, but I got a lot of them. Yeah. Well, that was just so beneficial to have that guy in my back pocket to talk to him twice, just for a couple of things I wasn't sure of, because they're just stuff just didn't jam with me, because there was at one point the chief coroner said one thing about the first murder, and then the second or third murder, he quotes the first murder, which was him, right? But he quotes himself wrong. Right. So, well, in the first murder, you said this, and the second murder, you talked about the first murder, but you didn't say the same thing. You said something different. So which one's accurate? So I talked to this guy and he goes, no, he was misquoted. Here's what he originally said. This is what was said, right? He was misquoted on the first one at the third one. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Okay, good. So he had all that and he goes, here's all the links. You can check it all out. You can check like the CNN of the time, just the local news agency. You can here's the links to their papers. You can just look it up. If you don't believe me, check it out.
You really lucked out finding that guy.
Just a fluke. He found me because I was just fed up with this whole form nonsense. Because it's like, oh, you should know this and blah blah blah. What kind of researcher are you? I'm just like,
keyboard warriors.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm looking for the easy answer. I'm not looking to fly to Whitechapel and spend 6 years there wandering the streets. I'm not into it. I just don't have that kind of time. It doesn't work that way.
Wouldn't that be neat to be able to visit there?
A lot of people do. I mean, I've had really cool stories from readers who have taken my book, gone to England because they're visiting friends. They go, we're going to Whitechapel. I got this book, right?
Oh, and, that's cool.
And they walk the streets and they write me from there. And they're just like, my God, I'm standing outside the Frying Pan pub. Oh my God, it's still here. I'm on the corner where he stood talking to that woman. Jesus, it's so cool. It's exactly like you wrote it.
Wow.
Yeah, because a lot of that stuff is still there.
That must be so rewarding for you to hear people discuss when they actually go to that location.
Yeah, fantastic. I've had so many people write me and say like you must have been there. You had to be there. I'm like, I didn't have to be there at all. I did everything, map on top of map on top of map, and then I'd glide them all around. I'd put them on the computer. I'd superimpose one over the other to see what they look like now versus what they look like then. It's pretty cool. A lot of stuff is still there. Some stuff's different, and some of the stuff is really, it's really neat how it comes together. I mean, when I was looking at the Jack the Ripper letters, there was I think there was 5, maybe 6 that the police deemed as being authentic, right? And the writing matched, the words matched, and the writer, the author of those letters, knew things that nobody knew because the police would hold back stuff. Back then, it was it's a free for all for the news, right? It was go get them. And the one inspector who was on this, he's like, okay, this one we don't give them everything. We're only going to talk about this, and this, or whatever. And the letter that comes in previous to that murder talks about that murder and what he's going to do. And secondly, when the next letter comes in, he talks about the mistakes he made on the first 2 murders, which nobody could have known. No one could have known that. So they were it's either an inside informant, like one of the cops are writing it, or one of the journalists are writing it, which did happen. One guy got caught being a doofus. Yeah, so that was silly. But so that was really cool. But the one thing that struck me, and again, this is just honestly my personal opinion. It's nothing to do with anything historic. There's nothing written to say this. But I had my main character actually say what I thought. And that was when he looks at the letters and he's reading these letters, he realizes, he says, it was like the words don't match the music, is what he said, right? It's like when you're at a dance and there's a song and someone's singing and it's a really nice melody, but then there's this crass yelling in the background. It just doesn't match. It's like this. He goes, that's what when I read this letter, that's what I see. And that's exactly what I saw. You have what I call eloquent writing, really quite nice. It's actually quite nice looking writing, but then the words, nothing's spelt right. It's all slang. It's really gruff. It's really slang. And it's almost, for me, it was like someone who is very educated writes this beautiful way, but they have to make it look like they're not educated, so they spell everything wrong.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's what I personally got from it, right? And as I wrote this, and I said, I'm not a ripperologist. I don't know, right? So I just go along. There's a lot of theories, and they think they've got who it is now. But there's 2 things in my mind that stand out for me. The first thing is that And man, the dates are just so out of whack. My recollection of the commissioner's report was 1890 or 1892, somewhere in there. So the commissioner at the time, who was the commissioner during the biggest murder case in the world at that time. Okay, this is massive. No one had ever heard of a serial killer. Nothing.
Mhm.
So when he wrote his memoirs, his report, he only wrote one paragraph pertaining to the Jack the Ripper murders.
Really?
Like, it's crazy. Like, and I my parents are hardcore British. My dad was British Navy. My mom was British Army. Like, you want to tell me what my childhood was like? Let me tell you what my childhood was
Oh, yeah.
like. What are you doing? Sit up straight. You know, but one thing I learned was the Brits have a very, you know, they're very proud. They're very stout. You know what I mean? Stiff upper lip, all that stuff. You know.
Mhm.
So here's the deal. He goes, by 1889, we already knew who Jack the Ripper was. But to bring that to light would only serve to discredit two police forces, and I'm not about to do that.
Mm.
Okay. So, all right, stiff upper lip, all that stuff. But like, why? How would it possibly embarrass or discredit two police forces? How could it possibly do that? Okay. Now you bring in Crazy Wayne's theory. Okay. Remember, like, I've been looking at this thing like from a storybook kind of thing. How long does it take to walk from A to B? Which way does the water flow? You know, this stupid stuff when it rains. You know, it's dumb stuff. This is me. So here's Whitechapel. It's a very small little area, right? There's Commissioner Road, runs right through this middle of it. One side is total slums, total garbage, horrible places to live, just nasty crime, everything. On the other side of it is basically the high end, all the teetotalers, doctors, lawyers, all that stuff. Really just bizarre how it's so close they are, right?
Yeah.
You know, right in the middle of it all is Doctor's Hospital. So now you have the high end having to walk or carriage through the slum to get to Doctor's Hospital. Okay. Everyone's like, oh yeah, it's a doctor. Oh yeah, it's a doctor. Well, that was all hogwash too. That was a misinterpretation because the chief investigator or the coroner basically is trying to tell people about science, and people weren't having it. You know, science was new. Photography was new. And he was trying to say, look, the body could not have been there at 8 o'clock in the morning, despite what your witness says. Couldn't be, because the blood had already congealed. The blood cools this fast on a dead corpse, blah, 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 blah. The whole figure. And people were just like, what? But I saw her. You know, you didn't see her. You want your name in the paper. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Right. So he's trying to quell that hysteria. And what he said was, look, if I was to do this kind of disfigurement to a body, right, in my professional capacity, it would take me more than an hour to do all of this. And I'm a pro. So what they said was, we're looking for a doctor.
Okay. Yeah.
You got what I'm coming from?
Yep.
Right. Okay. So that's where that whole misinterpretation came from. However, now, so you've got people walking back and forth or carriaging back and forth, right? My theory, and it is only a theory, and I'll explain to you exactly why in a minute. I think at the time there was a doctor that went to Doctor's Hospital, and he would frequent these prostitutes on the way home or the way there, right? And it wasn't like, hey, let's go to this really cool high-end hotel and do the horizontal bop. It didn't happen, right? They went behind a fence, man. It was just gross. You know, it's horrible stuff to that, you know. But at that time, syphilis was rampant. There was no antibiotics. You got syphilis, you died a horrible death. Brutal. One of the royals, their prince, whatever, he had syphilis. That was the first thing they thought of. It was him. But by that time, he couldn't hold a pencil. He was so disfigured, horrible, right? So what happens is, I think this doctor comes home unawares that he has syphilis in the early days, you know, does his thing with his wife, right? Passes it on to her, right? So she gets sick. Now they both realize that, oh my God, you're sick too. I'm sick too. And then, you know, that's going to ruin the relationship. However, back then, you know, if you were a female in London, England, and you were without husband, you had nothing. You didn't keep your property. If he died and you were in the house, the son got it, right? The son got the property. If there was no kids, the brother of your husband got it. If there was nobody else, the government took it.
Yeah.
You were out on the street. So you went from high society down to nothing. I mean, literally, you're on the street and looking for your next potato to eat. Literally, overnight. Boom, like that. So what I think happened was, I think this person basically lost everything, grabbed his little toolkit, his surgical toolkit, and left, because she would be kicked out on the street. That's all she had, was the clothes on her back and her purse, whatever she had in it. That's all she would be able to keep. So I take that. So this person is going to die and they're not of right mind, and revenge is on your mind. So who are you going to take your revenge out on? You're going to take it out on the people that infected you. Okay, great. Did you know at the height of the Ripper scare that was going on, they had something like 1,500 police constables walking an area that was like 2.5 kilometers by 2.5 kilometers?
Wow, no.
There was that many cops on the street and they couldn't catch this guy?
That's crazy.
Okay. Did you also know that they used to take the slightly built cops, the guys that were the clerks, and like, not these big robust guys, little bean poles. They dress them up like prostitutes and send them out into the streets to try to lure this guy in. Never caught anybody. And all I see in my mind's eye, and this is what when I was writing, it just boom, just came to me. Like, I see all kinds of visions and things, right? So this came to me. I see this guy leaning against a fence, looking like the lady of the night, right? And this person comes up and says something like, another prostitute comes up and says, hey, and he's like, go on, get lost. I'm a police cop, get lost, right? And she leaves, right? Back then, when that started, by murder 2, none of the women that were working Whitechapel would work alone. None of them. They always had a partner. Sometimes 2 or 3 would go together. So then when someone come up and go, how much for you? And you would go, okay, it's like 3 pennies or whatever. Okay, I'll take you. Let's go behind the fence. And the other one would wait right there. If you hear it screaming, you go get the cop, right? That's no one worked alone. So, however, if you were the woman killer dressed like a prostitute and someone came up to you and said, hey, I see you're working alone. Do you want a partner? You're like, yeah, I'll take a partner. You'd never see it coming. You would never think that a woman could do that kind of damage. None of the prostitutes, they'd be leery of a guy, but not of a woman. Not at all. And the blood on the second murder, there's a bucket of water right there. Not a drop of blood in it. That person who eviscerated that woman walked out with blood all over them, on their hands, everything, in the dim light of the morning. And no one said boo. Now, a woman could walk down the street covered in blood and nobody would say anything. Not one thing. Not one guy would come up to a woman and go, hey, miss, why are you bleeding? Would never. Because, my God, she might be on her period. We don't talk about that disgusting thing. Ugh.
Yeah.
And it gave you complete anonymity. Complete. And I'll tell you, that is the one thing that would discredit Scotland Yard. Wait, you were beat by a woman? A crazy one at that? The best police force in the entire world got duped by a chick? That would do it.
So do you think Jack the Ripper was really like Jane the Ripper?
100%.
Yeah.
I believe that. 100% I believe that. Because I could just see it, because if you end up with syphilis, you end up with like brain decay. You would finish up in an asylum, And at some point, again, I don't know. There's no evidence. There's nothing. It's just Crazy Wayne, right? And all I see is this woman, I'm Jack the Ripper. I'm Jack the Ripper. And people be like, yeah, whatever, you're cuckoo. But then all it would take is a doctor to be visiting her one day and she start talking about things that nobody would know. And they'd be like, I know it's a long shot. I'm going to ring the local barn. Can you send an inspector up here to talk to this wacko? Because she's singing away in here. I don't think it's real, but send somebody up. Sure enough, they find it. It's her. And that would be enough to quelch that completely. So.
Because there's
Yeah.
been so many speculations over the years that it was a royal family member or,
No. Nope.
uh,
The queen actually invited the chief inspector right in. She's like, you bring him right in, bring everybody. You
hmm,
ask any question you want of any person here. Go ahead.
I didn't know
Ask.
that happened. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. You ask anybody anything. I want this caught. If it's one of our family, find them.
Hmm.
Because they were after the one prince, because like I said, he was known to frequent the darker areas, right? And
Hmm.
but he was so sick at that point, there's no possible way he could hold a knife or a scalpel or like anything, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing. And everyone talked about, like, have you seen the autopsy photos back
No,
then? Oh, horrific. They were
really.
like, oh, it was a surgeon, oh, it's so precise. Bollocks. It was not. Like, they were like this. They right from your sternum down to your crotch, basically. Sorry, but it was just like a lightning bolt,
Yeah.
right? And like, even me in my limited, grade 12 capacity, I know to get a kidney out, you do it from the back,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And they just gutted this woman out and ripped her all apart and pulled everything out and then took the kidney. But that's not professional.
Yeah.
That's no pro. There's no way that's a pro.
You think they're trying because they knew who it was and didn't want to discredit the police departments that they kind of give misinformation so people wouldn't even think it would be a female?
Back then they didn't. No one would have even thought it was a female. No one. But if it had come to light quietly from
Hmm.
one doctor's asylum straight to the commissioner, it would be like, right, we don't talk about this ever.
Yeah.
Ever. You want to be disbarred? You talk about it. You go right ahead. And that'd be the end of it, man. It's quiet, gone, disappeared, never happened again.
Hmm.
It
Interesting.
was something, boy. I'll tell you, that was mind blowing to me.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of information that you just gave that I wasn't aware. Like you mentioned earlier, I'm familiar with Jack the Ripper, but I
And
don't
they
know
are.
a whole lot. Yeah, like everyone's heard the name. I mean, it's even been
Yeah.
on a lot of TV shows, like the old Star Trek series. Jack the
Yeah.
Ripper was
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Doctor
what I
Who.
wanted. That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah,
Because someone knows something about it,
yeah.
and I want people to read it and be like, wow, it feels so real.
Hmm.
Because I want it to feel real. I want to feel like you're reading a historical documentary on this. This is what
Yeah.
actually happened, right? Like, there's dock fires that I write about. That actually happened when it was raining on July 7th. It was raining on July 7th.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was at one point. There's this thing in the Ripper Chronicles, right? That there's this guy with the bowler hat that sees a guy buying bread. Okay, there's the confectionaries that were open all night long because everybody worked these crazy long hours. It wasn't
Yeah.
like now, right? We're getting there. We're almost working those crazy long hours. But
Yeah. No kidding.
back then, like, you might get off work at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Hmm.
and you'd be on your way home and you'd buy a loaf of bread from the local store because it was open, right? That's how it is. So this guy, he's cutting across the street, and the standard comment was, I walked across the street, I saw the man in the bowler hat leaning against the fence talking to Elizabeth Stride, and I overheard him say to her, you'd say anything but your prayers. That's what he says to the prostitute in dead that morning. So when I wrote that part, I wrote it from another character from the other end of the street. So she's looking down the street, sees Elizabeth Stride talking to the guy in the bowler hat, but she also sees the guy with the bread crossing the road, right? So
Okay. Yeah.
it's a different angle because we only have the one account from the guy crossing the road.
Hmm.
So now I've got a second account from my fictional character
Hmm.
looking down the road that sees all three of them.
Hmm.
So again, it's following the historic narrative, but I just take a little bit of liberty of where people are positioned, so to actually see and substantiate the historical record. Oh, fun.
Well done.
Yeah, I like it. Fun.
Yeah. And it's like it's really fun to read too, and I lose track of time when I'm reading it.
Same with writing it. It was exactly the same as writing it.
Hmm.
When I wrote the second book, Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary, it took me 11 months to write that and edit it. And I flew through that. It was just like, it went crazy. It was,
Mhm.
I wrote the ending to that book right at the end of Whitechapel Road. Like, I wrote the ending to book 2.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
it was like right there in my face. And it's like,
And you don't want to forget it.
no, I wrote it all down. So it was a beautiful
Yep.
ending. It's a beautiful ending. It was like, And I wrote the entire story of book 2 to meet that end. And it just flowed so beautifully. Oh my God, it was just so beautiful. Yeah, it's a smaller book than all the rest, but it was a beautiful book that happens in modern day. It just worked out so nice.
I hear that from other authors and even people who have movie ideas, that they have the ending and then they just create the story from the ending that they have.
I never did that before, but I did it with that one.
Yeah.
And I remember jamming with my son, and we were staying when we used to live in the haunted house in Niagara. And him and I were jamming one night. He's very creative. He's a writer. He writes screenplays and stuff. I wish he would.
Oh, wow.
I wish he would do something with it, but he's just like, meh. I guess okay, whatever. It's just no. I asked him to write a screenplay for Whitechapel Road, and he's like, yeah, maybe.
Oh.
So translation is no.
No, yeah.
We're good with that. But anyway, he's that. So we were jamming one night about an idea I had, and he is so cute. He's like at that time I think he was like 24, and he's having hot chocolate, and I'm having a tea, and got my feet up on the couch and stuff, and I tell him my idea, and he's just like, "You're not really going to write that, are you?" I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, dude, there'll be burning crosses on your front lawn. Like, you can't write that. I'm like, I'm going to write it. For sure, I'm going to write it. So I'm almost at that point. I'm just about there. Like on book 4, Dark Origins, I just caressed that idea a little bit. Just, between book 4 is all about the elders, all about where vampires come from. So you have your
interesting.
You have your Whitechapel Road, which is the historic narrative, right? Then you have Mary, which I use forensic science to substantiate the existence of vampires. And then book 3 is in World War I. So you got a bit of history in that, but it's more like the moral conflict and the boy meets girl kind of stuff. So you have the conflict of spirituality, religion, and your moral conviction of right and wrong, and tied in with the history and the growing world at the time. Then in book 4 we go way back into like the 1300s, 1400s, right? And you meet, basically what I tried to do was have 2 buddies, right? Like if it was me and my buddy Fred, and we would be like, oh, did you hear what the dumb guy said today on the news, blah 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 blah, and we just talk about the current events, right, of what's going on. So I have these 2 elder vampires that are moving through the nature, through the streetscape of that time period, talking about what the hell's going on, like what has happened to our world, like what has happened, like and they're warriors, boy. They're big, nasty guys that are trying to just take back, and like, we are the hunted, so now we are going to be the hunters. And so they just turn the whole thing around. And while they're turning it around, you get an inside scoop of the history of the time period. Right. So that's kind of where that comes from. And for me, that book was fun to write. It was difficult to write because that history is really tough to find. You can find the main history anywhere you want, but you want to find a town in North Germany in the 1300s.
Yes, yeah.
Doesn't exist anymore. Now they call it Hamburg. Right? I mean, like, you want to find the original name of something. Oh my God. It's just original names. What did you name your kid in the 1300s? Good luck. Right. That was difficult. And I wrote it in the winter. I'd never wrote anything in the winter. Most vampires are just like, oh, it's a beautiful day in California. I wanted to write it in the winter. I wanted to do it because it was hard, and I wanted to see how hard it actually was. I actually took my laptop out in one of the cold months, January, February, and sat on the veranda with it. Oh. And I wanted to see what cold feels like. I worked outside for a million years. I know what cold's like, but I wanted to see what it was like to just be miserable. Just be miserable in the cold. And it didn't take long for me to be thoroughly miserable. My fingers stopped working and my nose was just pouring. I'm just like, this sucks. Yeah. Oh my God, this sucks so bad. But it gave me really good clarity to write from a peasant's point of view, leaving their town, like their little small, 4 village or house village kind of thing, and wander off into the woods with nothing but your mule and what you got on it. Like, brutal. Brutal. So it gave me a really good idea what cold was all about.
Well, that's good. That's smart.
That's what I want. Like, I want it to be real. When people read it, I want it to feel real. I don't want it to make it, I'm reading a fluff story. I want it to feel like it's genuine, it's real, it's dynamic. I had one guy write me fairly recently. Like, I haven't written in a long time, so when I get an email, it's always really like, oh, that's really nice. And not like, women will write me more than guys will write me. Guys would be like, dude, it was amazing. That's it. That's all I got. Right? Yeah. Women will be like, you know, every nuance, everything that you did right. You know, it's like, I loved, I fell in love with this other character. I didn't know that. It made me cry. But this guy wrote me, and he same thing. He's like, dude, you know, he's like, capital letters, amazing. Right. And he's like, but honestly, you got to tell me. He's like, this is more than just a vampire story, isn't it? I'm like, yes. Yeah, read between the lines. It definitely is. Definitely is. So
it sounds like there's method actors. It sounds like you're like a method author.
Could be.
Yeah.
I want you to feel it. I want you to feel it. A really good friend of mine, he went to cottage one time, and he took the first edition Whitechapel Road with him. And we hooked up on a Wednesday, I think, for coffee and a bite to eat. And he goes, oh, I'm reading your book. I said, oh, how is it? And he goes, it's terrifying. He goes, it's terrifying. He's like, honest to God, he's like, I'm sitting at my cottage I've known since I was like 2 years old. I'm sitting there and I'm reading this book, and, you know, hairs are going up, and I'm just like, wow. And I look around my cottage, and looking around, it's all dark outside. I'm like, you know, I was like, okay, I'm reading. He goes, honestly, when I got up, I went and I closed all the curtains. I locked all the doors. No, you know, I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, God, Wayne, it's terrifying. Like, it's terrifying. Like, the way you describe stuff, it's like terrifying. You know,
what a compliment, though. Eh?
It was huge. And it was a good friend of mine.
Wow.
You know, he's the way he equated it. He goes, you know, the Batman and Robin we grew up with in the 60s, very campy, like pow, biff, boom. He goes, we grew up with that. And it was really campy, right? And then they brought out Batman: The Dark Knight, and that was dark. It was evil. Yes. You know, he goes, that's your book.
Oh.
He goes, you got all these campy vampire stories and, you know, all this stuff. And he says, like, then you got this. He goes, this is terrifying. This is absolutely terrifying. You know, it's like, I guess. Good. Glad.
Needs to be made into a movie.
Oh, you don't know how many people have said that. And it's been a hard go. I've approached a lot of people with it. And it doesn't even get off the ground. You know, like, if you go to my website, waynemallows.com, I've got a trailer for the first book. It's a movie trailer, and we did it. A buddy of mine's a director, and he came down, and we spent 3 days, and we shot this thing.
You have to check that out.
I think it's about a minute. I think it is. There's two there. There's the mini trailer, then there's the full trailer.
Okay.
And that's what I envision it being, right? Is that really dark, you know, noir photography, right? It's really sort of shadowy. I like it. I really liked it. And I thought he'd be the guy to do it, but then he just got so busy, couldn't even entertain it. Then I met another guy, and fantastic. He's a director, amazing guy, and he teaches it all. And I talked to him, and his response was, I love the book, and I'm sure you'll find someone who'll do a movie for you.
Oh. I wonder why I didn't want to take it.
It's expensive. Do something like that, man. It's really expensive, you know, like it's pricey. And the way I always look at it, it's easier to make Spider-Man 27 than it is to take a chance on a new guy.
Yeah.
Because if you take a chance on a new guy and you say, okay, we're going to throw 250 million at this thing, and it flops, you never work again. The guy that said, go with Wayne Mallows, the Vampyre Tales, and it flops, that guy, he's pumping gas for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
You know, that's just not a thing. It doesn't work ever again. So I get it. I understand the money aspect of it, but that's why you see, you know, Halloween 27, Spider-Man 27, Batman $250,000, right? You know, you don't see a new idea because it could flop.
Anybody listening or watching this, you have to make this into a movie. It's not going to flop. It's going to be amazing. Trust me.
I've talked to people like who I hang with, right? So, you know, like we have people that are connected to the great beyond. And even before I met Michelle, like, my sisters were pretty, I used to call them my witchy woo woo sisters, because they were cool. They were really cool sisters. But I went to see a psychic healer just because My sister said, you need to heal that dark energy in you, boy. That's the way it is, right? So I went to see her, and she was delightful. It was delightful. And she did Reiki. She was pretty neat. And she talked me through the whole thing. And she goes, so what do you got there? I saw it's a manuscript for a book I'm working on. And she put her hand on it, and she does this, and she's like, not a book, not a book, not a book, movie, just like that. And I'm just
No
like,
way.
you are right. Like, you know. And I had a few people say that, like they read it and they go like, I don't read it. Like I'm into the chapter 3, and by now I'm seeing it all as I'm reading it.
Yes.
I don't even read it. I can see it all. Like, I don't know what's going to happen to it. But yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it be a TV series. I bet you could probably get a good 3 seasons just out of Whitechapel Road on its own, you know. And then from there, it's a wild card. The 4th book is Michelle's favorite book. Like, it's just nice. It's so back there, and so I don't know what it is. It's dark, and it's a different world than what we come from. You know, at one point, one of my main guys, we just call him D, right? We don't say his name because they're actually demonic names, right? You don't want to actually quote them chapter and verse, otherwise you have visitors at night. Anyway, I told her about this one scene where these 2 guys, you know, are confronted by like a militia of, you know, bandits, you know, just rogue guys that roam the planet causing grief, right? So they get there, and they're just sort of chatting it up with these 2 guys, and they're just like, you know, the chatting's done. As much as we enjoy this, he's like, I'll take your horses and your purses, and you can walk the rest of the way. And my guy's just like, yeah, no. And he leans on the horse a little bit, and he goes, the only way you will relieve me of my sword is if I'm unable to pull it from your skull. That's what he said. And everybody laughs, right? Because they just think, what are these 2 guys going to do against, like, you know, 40 guys, right? It's nothing, right? I said this line to Michelle, and she goes like this. You know Michelle, right? She goes, he loves him.
That's awesome.
You know, that's just that big smile that goes from ear to ear. But that's like that became like her favorite character, just because the one guy is just kind of like, remember, like, our mothers were human. You know, he goes, that was a long time ago, brother. It was a long time ago, right? You know, like, things have changed, right? So the one guy doesn't hate on humanity, but, you know, he'll mess you up if you mess around with him. The other guy's just like, yeah, I hate you all. Get in my way, I'll just kill you. No problem. You know, so that's the dynamic of that. They're always having this kind of like this back and forth kind of thing, right? And at one point, it's kind of cute because they have this wolves. I'm talking wolves, like I'm talking the ones that stand up to your shoulder, come running at them. And my one main guy, D, he just looks back at his friend, and he's just like, I am getting tired of this. So like he walks out there and he yells at them in Latin to stand down, and all the dogs kind of skid to a stop except the one.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. And the leader jumps him, and he's got him down. He's like, stand down. And in Latin, I write it in Latin, and I explain what it is afterwards. Right. And the dog won't. And finally he just kills the dog, and there's this kills the dog. Right. And all the other dogs kind of grovel to him. And he's like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
He's like, go find a new leader, bugger off. Right. I'm just done. Right. Anyway, he gets back on the horse, and his partner goes, are you injured? And he looks at me, goes, you joke. Seriously, are you joking? You know, fast forward way down in the book, and they get jumped by a bunch of guys, and there's swords flying everywhere. And it's a melee. And his partner, which I will call R, gets a sword in the side. He grabs the sword, pulls it right into his side, then punches the guy in the head. You know, pulls the sword out and ditches it, kind of thing. The D guy comes up after the fight, and he goes, looks at the blood all in his tunic, and he goes, are you all right? And he looks, he's like, yeah, I'm okay. He's like, thanks. He goes, I don't know, I'm trying to get into this whole mindset of yours of this mutual love that we're supposed to have for each other. You know, it's just like, and he just laughs, right? He's just, the guy's just like, you know, I've been taken again, you know, fallen for your like artificial care, you know. This is this camaraderie kind of humor that you have that goes on that I try to weave into all the stories, even though they're dark. There's this humor. Like in book 2, you have the camaraderie between the police that are investigating these horrible murders, and there's some humor in there, even though it's black. It's just horrible. They just have this kind of like way about them because that's how they get through it. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
If ever you make your books into a movie or a TV series and you need an extra, I'm available.
I know a person. Yeah. I know a person.
Well, we're at the end, Wayne. I'd love to have you back because we could go on for hours longer.
I'd love it. I've had a great time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Me too. So if you'd like to tell the audience where they can find you, I know you mentioned the website already, but just to refresh their memory.
Yeah, it's all my name. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. It's the website is waynemallows.com. That's just how it's spelled. And if you want to email me, it's the same. It's wayne.mallows@hotmail.com.
Cool.
And I will answer everybody. If I don't answer, assume it went to junk mail and try again, because I will never leave somebody hanging. I just don't do that. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you so much. Have a happy new year and a safe one.
Thank you.
If you hang tight for a second, I'm just going to say my goodbyes, and then we can chat just for a couple minutes.
Amazing. Absolutely. Have a great new year, folks. Bye now.
Bye. Well, folks, my special guest tonight was amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight on UPRN 107.7 New Orleans. And remember, if you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And to be a guest on the show, you just have to, or you just want to say hello, or you want to support the show by purchasing Paranormal Heart merch, drop me an email at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. Have a happy and safe new year, everyone. Much love to you all. Until next time.